The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am, of course, your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Tuesday, October 10th, 2017. Thanks so much for joining me. I have a pretty simple topic tonight, not a simple topic, but a simple title of the show, which is simply sexual harassment. On sexual harassment. I had a chance to listen to the audio of Harvey Weinstein, and I'm going to play the audio for you. And I felt as though I honestly believe that we should. It's something that I don't talk about often on my show. Yeah, that's where I should start. I don't talk about it often on my show. I don't know. I can't say there's any particular reason why I don't talk about it, but we're going to talk about it tonight. And I want you to call in 857-600-0518 to weigh in. But first, before you call in, we're going to just play the audio. We're going to play the audio from the Harvey Weinstein. And I want you to listen as he talks with a model, and Gutierrez is her last name. I want you to listen in as he attempts to convince her to come into his room so he doesn't get embarrassed. And she explains to him that, well, yeah, I'm going to let you listen to it for yourself. And then you decide. Well, there's really nothing to decide. Just listen to it for yourself.
I'm telling you right now.
What do we have to do here?
Nothing. I'm going to take a shower. You sit there and have a drink. Water.
I don't drink. Can I stay on the bar?
No, you must come here now.
No.
Please.
No, I don't want to.
I'm not doing anything with you. Now you're embarrassing me.
I'm sorry. I cannot. No, yesterday was a kind of aggressive for me. I need to know a person to be touched.
I won't do a thing.
I don't want to.
Do a thing, please. I swear I won't. Just sit with me. Don't embarrass me in the hotel. I'm here all the time. Sit.
It continues. Let's keep listening in.
I'm going to take a shower. You sit there on everything. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Please come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my jacket, you can go.
Yesterday you touched my breast.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that.
But
come on.
are you used to that?
Yes, come in.
No, but I'm not used to that.
I won't do it again. Come on. Sit here.
I won't do it
Sit
again.
here for a minute, please.
No, I don't want to.
If you do this now, you will embarrass me. No. Never call me again. Okay? I'm sorry. I promise you I won't do anything.
I know, but yesterday was too
the
much.
guy is coming. I will never do another thing to you. 5 minutes. Don't ruin your friendship with me for 5 minutes.
I know, but it's kind of like, it's too much for me. I can't.
Please, you're making a big scene here.
No,
please.
but I want to leave.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
All right, that's it. Not much more to be heard from that. That's hard for me to hear. I think it's hard. It should be hard for anyone to hear, right? I think if you're a decent human being, that should be disturbing to you, because she is pleading with the man. She's literally pleading with the man, asking him to not force her to come in. And the situation is such that, okay, so if you've been living under a rock, let me give you context. Harvey Weinstein is a famous Hollywood producer, executive, and he's made the careers of dozens of big names that you know. He's given a start to even more people, and he is being brought down by his sexual harassment. And I'm actually just going to call it sexual assault, because anytime you touch a woman or touch anybody without their permission, that's more than harassment to me. So he's coming down. He's been let go from his company, the Weinstein Company, and now they're actually going after the entire company because people knew about this. And that's one of the things about sexual harassment, is that people know about it and they see it going on, and they far too often they do nothing about it. And so this audio came out today from the NewYorker.com, the New Yorker, obviously, in their website. They obtained it. The audio was recorded by Gutierrez. She was wired by the police because she complained to them that he had sexually assaulted her. And so they sent her back to get evidence. And she sure as hell brought evidence, right? I mean, that's the clearest example of a confession. That's an all-out confession. He admitted to grabbing her the day before, and he said that, oh, I'm just used to that, as if that's well, I'm not even getting to that part yet. I'm still just going to describe it. I'm not even getting to it yet. He says that he apologizes for doing it yesterday and he won't do it again, but come on in the room anyway. There's some people coming over and you're going to embarrass me, and don't ruin our friendship over 5 minutes. I just need you to come in for 5 minutes, and you come in for 5 minutes, and that's all it's going to take. Don't ruin your friendship with me. You know, this threat of losing a relationship with a powerful person. And this is pretty, unfortunately, sounds like standard fare sexual harassment, and with the addition of sexual assault, because it's always a power play. It is always someone who is going to use their position of power to force some type of sexual relationship out of a person who does not want to have a sexual relationship with him or her. On occasion, you do hear of women being sexual harassers, but more than often, it's always men. So there's really almost no point of even mentioning the off cases. But, you know, if there are cases, and, you know, fine, we'll call it for what it is. But this guy was gross, man. This guy was horrible in the sense that he was relentless about this for a very long time. The New York Times actually put out an article today that showed that he had been doing this with people imagine Angelina Jolie, Gwyneth Paltrow, you know, a long list of women that he had done this to, and they all had one thing in common when he did this to them. Weinstein did this to them when they were around 20 years old, 22 years old, when they first got to, very first got to Hollywood. And everybody can put that together. You know why he did it like that, because they're young women who are trying to break into the industry, and he has the expectation. He has the expectation that they are going to go along with anything he wants. That is his expectation, and he's surprised when they don't go along with anything he wants. Because maybe he has had other encounters where one particular woman was okay with it. And so now he expects everyone to be okay with it. But just because one person is okay with it doesn't mean that there was a quote. I wish I had the paper in front of me. I cannot think of her name, so I got to look it up. But there's a woman that he harassed in this manner. And she said that other women might be, this might be for other women, or she used the word girl, right? She said, this might be other girls, but I'm not that girl, and I'll never be that girl. And I love her language there, because there is some, you know, I can't really broach this subject without actually broaching it. And I'm going to broach it tonight. I want you to call in 857-600-0518. I want you to call in either only on this topic tonight. No other topics tonight. I know sometimes I just let you all talk about whatever you want to talk about when you call in. But I want you to talk about this tonight, whether it's, I don't care what vantage point. If you have a story of you being sexually harassed and you feel like you need to share it, then by all means, my channel is your channel tonight. If you are a guy who never really believed it was a big problem, yeah, call in. We'll talk with you. I did not know the extent to which it was a problem. I could imagine, right? See, here, and I'll start with me, because that's all I can do, right? I'll start with me. Here's the thing, is if you are a person who doesn't do this, sometimes you assume that it doesn't exist because you're not guilty of it. And I've been thinking back in my catalog of my encounters, trying to think of if I've ever been guilty of this. And I mean, right off the top of my head, guarantee you, I'm not guilty of what this dude did in this video, right? In this audio, right? But this is almost an extreme. And sometimes we look at an extreme and say, oh, well, we're not guilty of that, so we're not really guilty of anything. But, you know, that's it. We can't always look at the extremes, right? Sometimes you just have to look at things that you might not even expect. And if we don't confront it on those things, if we always just look at the extreme examples and say, well, I didn't do that, then we won't address the other examples of the things that we did. Right. And I hope that makes sense to you. And so we'll take some callers, but you know, I'm thinking back through my life and I'm like, have I ever been like this or anything remotely like this? And, you know, I don't really have an example of much except for one. I remember a girlfriend that we dated in high school, and we ended up going to the same college. And in high school, you know, I was, you know, I don't know if I put all my business out there, but let's just say by the time I got to college, I was a different person looking for a different thing. And we went out and had my car, you know, took her out in college, and she let me know. She was like, wow, Ben, because we broke up and we, you know, got back together, go out. And she was like, Ben, you've gotten a lot more aggressive. Right. And she said that to me, and it clicked right away that, you know what, I'm doing something with her that she's not comfortable with. It didn't take her 30 times to tell me, but I do recall that distinctively sticking out in my mind that, you know, the relationship that we had in high school is different now. I'm a different person now. I'm bringing something different to the relationship now, and she's not comfortable with what I'm bringing to the relationship now. And she told me straight out, she said, Ben, you're a lot more aggressive than you used to be. And to me, that was just my signal to say, chill the hell out. And I did, right? We're friends right now online, Facebook. I know her family. Well, I know, you know, via Facebook. I know her family. She knows mine. We still stay in touch. Everything is great. But that's just, if you're not willing to hear that, then, I mean, I don't know. Then you can lead to stuff like this with Weinstein. And I'm not even, you know, part of me, I'm not equipped to talk about this even from the male perspective, other than the fact that one thing that I am most guilty of is, because I'm not guilty of it, I downplay how big of a problem it is. And that to me is just as bad, right? The people who don't see it happening are not guilty of it happening. And so when we hear about it, what do? Oh, catcalling is not really a thing because you never really saw it, right? Instead of just taking women at their word. And not just women, man. Terry Crews put out a series of tweets today that blew my mind, right? He was talking about an event in which he was sexually harassed, in which a man came up to him in Hollywood and just straight up grabbed his junk in front of his wife. I mean, think about the audacity of that, right? It's one thing to be on the sly and try to do something and then get pushed away and all those kind of things. That's probably how it happens in our world of normal people. But in Hollywood, this dude, whoever this guy was, had so much power, and in his mind, he had so much power that he went and he grabbed Terry Crews, 240-pound Terry Crews, big, swole, bald black man, grabbed him by his junk in front of his wife and thought everything would be fine. And then when he reported it, everybody was acting like, yeah, that's pretty much a common thing that happens. And then he said it, he put it in words. I'm like, wow, listen to this man talk. Listen to him talk about the way he described it. He said he didn't want, how many people would believe him? Few. How much trouble would it cause him? A lot. Does he want us working this city still? Yes. Will this hurt him? Probably. And so he took that as his cue to let it go after he reported it to a couple of people, and they were like, yeah, that's pretty much just how it goes, Terry. Now, if this happens to a 240-pound black guy who can probably knock anybody out in the room, what do you think is happening to women? There's the power dynamic that we could talk about, that I probably will talk about. I want to talk about the political side of it, because there have been a lot of people. This guy is a liberal. This guy is a liberal. This guy is a progressive. So let's dispense with this notion. I don't think we've ever held this notion on this show, and we should never hold that notion that just because you're a progressive or you're a liberal, or hell, if you're a feminist for that matter, let's dispense with the notion that you're automatically good, and that you're not capable of being guilty of some of the most grotesque things ever. Right? Let's dispense with that notion, because I think for some reason people try to assert that progressives and liberals are holier than thou. From the conservative side, they try to say, oh, you guys are, these are progressives doing this and they're hypocrites. Well, no. Nobody ever said, let's be clear. Nobody ever said progressives and liberals, men or women for that matter, but men particularly, are better than any of this. Some of the worst stuff that we see can come from a progressive. Some examples of racism I've seen from progressives. I mean, come on. I mean, that's not even a thing. Why would we even start with that pretense, except for to try to make political points, cheap political points for that matter? And so, I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss as to why we would have this idea in our head that somehow a progressive guy or a liberal guy is less likely to do this type of thing, when that's clearly not true, and that's clearly not the case. And so the fact that Weinstein is a liberal and he's part of the Hollywood elite, and he has, donated money to Obama, donated money to the Clintons, donated money to every damn body in the Democratic Party. There's been this big, two things have happened, and I'm going to call them both out simultaneously. You have conservatives acting and feigning as though they haven't just elected a Republican, a man who himself confessed to groping women and just going up to them and grabbing them by the pussy, right? They're acting as though they themselves have not elected a person who does this exact same thing from the same circles, right? Donald Trump tried to act as though he was shocked because, not shocked, but he knew this because he knows Weinstein. Well, not only because you know Weinstein, but because you've done this. This is the type of shit that you do, Donald Trump. That's number one. But simultaneously, I've got to criticize these Democrats who did take forever to say something. Right? If this guy, and there's some, and shout out to those that started giving money back right away. Right? But then others didn't really say much, if anything at all. And you know what? It's amazing. Like, it's not as though, here's the thing. At first I thought, well, maybe they're just trying to, not eat their own and not let the conservatives get political points, and they're trying to close down. I'm not saying this is the right thing. I'm trying to understand why they took so long, and I'm looking at it and say, well, maybe they're trying not to give Donald Trump anything, blah 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 blah. Maybe they're playing a political game, because they don't want to sacrifice our own. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But then I thought about these motherfuckers for a little bit further, and I realized these same people will attack. They will gladly attack us and attack their own on something else. Easily, no questions asked. So it wasn't so much that they're trying to protect him for the sake of protecting him. They're trying to protect him because of how much money they took from him, or whatever the justification is. But it's not as though Democrats are not willing to have their sister soldier moment when they're going to repudiate people and say we can no longer be associated with this type of person and all that jazz. You know what I mean? It's not as though they won't do that, because they've definitely shown that they're willing to do that. They just took forever to do it here. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on all around us that is with this story that is very sickening. And the most sickening part about it, above anything else, right? Forget about the politics, forget about the different players, forget about conservatism and liberalism and ideology in general, and just think about the sheer reality of harassment as it exists and as pervasive as it is. Whether we are individually guilty of it or not, we have to at least admit that this goes on in a fashion that has to be confronted on a level that requires every single voice that has a voice to say something. Let's see if I've got this caller here. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question? Hello, caller. Do I still have you? All right. I lost that caller. I do not have that caller, but you can weigh in on the discussion. 857-600-0518. If you have anything to say, definitely want to hear from you. It's a very sad. I almost want to play the video again, the audio again, but it's the power dynamic, man. The power dynamic blows me away. Most of all, the power dynamic blows me away because of how easily people control, how people will use their position of authority to control you, but to hurt you. I mean, like, it's almost like they own your body. They expect that they have the right to your body, man. It's amazing, man. It is amazing. And part of the conversation that I haven't even broached yet, that I am going to broach, is an element that I'm not ready to broach yet. Let's just say like that. I'm not ready to broach it, but I will before the end of the show. I will broach it before the end of the show. Let's take this caller. We have a caller on the line. Let's see if we got it right this time. I don't know. Caller, you're live. Let's try here. Caller, you are live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben, it's your producer, David, out of New York.
David.
Wanted to call in. It's been a while since I actually did. And one thing that two things actually that I wanted to bring up. One, to your point on Trump that you sort of started on, where it wasn't a surprise for him, besides the fact that because he knows Weinstein, but because it's part of his behavior, it's within his range of things he would do. Aside from that, the fact that he couldn't even pretend to condemn the behavior. I haven't seen anyone really call that out, and it was beyond obvious to me watching him say, well, it's not a surprise. And the question after that was, do you think it's inappropriate? And instead of him saying, yes, it's inappropriate, and, taking a stance on the matter, the way you'd expect, the president to do, he said, well, he thought it was inappropriate, or he said it was inappropriate, speaking of Weinstein. So he took a cop-out and just deferred to the actual perpetrator.
Yeah, that was surprising. That was...
the fact that he couldn't even play along and pretend.
let me say it like this. That was surprising. Hey, thanks for the call, David. That was surprising, but not surprising, right? It's surprising in the sense that he actually would do that he would say that he would come from that perspective because he's the president of the damn United States of America, right? But it's not surprising because he's also Donald Trump. That's the part. It's not surprising because it is Donald Trump, and that's just the way he is, and he's part of these circles, right? So I don't know. I'm not ready to broach it yet. I'm going to get there because and what I'm hinting at, and I haven't yet said, is dealing with the reality of I don't care how good of a man you are. I don't care because I'm a good dude. Guys, I am a good dude. I'm faithful to my wife. You know what I mean? I've, decent track record with all the women, everybody I had a relationship with. For the most part, we're friends now. I've had a lot of relationships and a lot of good friends now. I'm a good person, but then there's still a component of me that most men aren't going to really admit to, cop to, that makes us capable of this type of stuff if we are not mindful that we're capable of this type of stuff. If we are just oblivious to the fact of, if we try to deny the fact that we have predilections and tendencies to fetishize and to examine every woman that we see, if we don't admit to some of that stuff, then we are very likely to stumble, if not intentionally, but unintentionally, right? Even the best of us with the best of intentions has the capacity to actually stumble into some things that are harassment. I'm not saying that any of us will ever stumble not stumble. Let me take that word out of the vocabulary at this point. I'm not saying that any of us will ever become what Harvey Weinstein was, but hell, you don't know what most of us don't know who we are until we get power, until we get money. That's when you really find out who you are. Thankfully, I've been in some positions of authority in my life, and it doesn't really trip me out when I have people working for me. right? And or when I have quote unquote fans. I'm not even talking about this. I'm not talking about what we do now. I'm talking about in one of my past lives, right? When you have large audiences that you're in front of, and you have the ability to take advantage of your position of authority. You don't even have to have money. You can have a position of authority, and you see people take advantage of that. And I've seen people. I've seen people take advantage of it. And the question is, where does it become sexual harassment? Where does it become sexual assault? You know, if the woman is fine with it, cool with this is what she wants, she's a willing participant, that's one thing. But the paradigm is still there. And I think what happens is a person with power and authority, they got what they wanted from one woman. She was cool with it. It wasn't assault. It was completely consensual. And he got it because of his power. And then the next one that comes along, he tries to do the same thing and he can't get it, and he forces himself, and it becomes all out assault and harassment. Right. And so I'm saying this is a topic that I'm getting ready to broach. And I think I finally cracked the seal on it. It's that no matter how good we are, men, because I'm like, I would tell you, I'm probably one of the best dudes that you could put, that you could trust. Right. But even in the deepest, darkest recesses of my mind, I'm just like every other dude. You see a fine woman and you want to say something to the fine woman. And the question is, when are we going to address that component of this? That that's the entryway. I mean, let's just be real. That's where it starts. It doesn't start by you being a gross, disgusting human being and then you are just a monster and a predator. No, it starts with the fact that you pretty much checking out just about every woman that walks past you. I've always said I would keep it real with you guys. We'll talk about that more. Let's talk to this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, Ben. It's Ryan. And Donald Trump didn't criticize because he was a witness in Jeffrey Epstein's trial, just like former President Billy C. So it's a behavior he's familiar to.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And it's something, if you go back and just look at the pictures he's posted of his family. There's some pretty disturbing photos of him with his daughter as a teenager sitting on his lap, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I have a theory that if you look at his daughter's eyes in the pictures that she's posted, she's hiding a deep, dark secret. And this is a theory that I have, just looking at her. The eyes are the windows to the soul. And I think he has sexually abused his daughter, and that's just me coming out and saying it.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm gonna have to lay that one. I'm gonna have to lay that one at your feet, because that's you saying that. I'm not endorsing that idea. But you know what? Hey, this is what I will say. It's totally within the realm of possibilities of people who have not put their sexual, I can't even call it prowess, because sexual prowess is something different. Have not put their sexual, what's the word? Their sexual shittiness in check. That's all I have right now. I'm sure there's a more intellectual way to say it, but right now all I have is it's within the realm of possibilities of people who have not put their sexual shittiness in check, particularly men. I can't speak for women, right? I know there are probably some women out there who can testify to how out of control women's sexuality is and how unchecked. Maybe you could test. I can't. All I can say is for men, because I am one, and because I've been around so many in so many different realms. I've been around preachers, man. I've been around preachers, people like, I guess that shouldn't even be a big deal. That's not even a surprise that they're shitty human beings, right? That they're responsible. Okay. God damn, I'm gonna tell it all tonight. So let me tell you about the one guy I have so much respect for the same reason that I guess I have so much self-respect for the time that I have to tell you about my pastor. He's passed away now. He died of cancer in his late 50s. And Loved him to death. Lance Chaney. I'll call him by name because he was a good dude and great representation of what you do when you are in charge of thousands of people and you speak in front of a large crowd of people every single week, and people like you, and sometimes women throw themselves at you and sometimes they don't, right? And so you have a responsibility of saying, I'm on this platform and my responsibility is to not do the things that I probably could get away with doing. And I can say for the 10 years that I work with that man, I work with him closely, like every day, like all day long, to the point where we're fussing at each other like we're father and son. Right? I've been to his home, rode in his car. You know, he's trusted me with his cell phone. Like I could say about all the time that I spent with him, I never saw that man take advantage of his position of authority. Now, for a whole bunch of other motherfucking preachers that I've dealt with in my lifetime, I've seen it. It is gross. It is disgusting. It is something that I said I would never do, right? Because I used to be involved in the church in a very significant fashion. And I said I would never take advantage of my position in these buildings where I'm speaking before thousands of people. And sometimes women will throw themselves at you, but that's totally, I mean, that's a situation that you actually have to take a step back and say, as a leader, am I going to allow myself to indulge in things that I can indulge in? And usually the people who won't control that point, that initial inception, if people who won't control the fact that they have the ability to take advantage of, or rather they have the ability to engage in a relationship with a person who's throwing themselves at them because of their leadership position. If you don't put that in check, then you're one step closer, my friend, to not putting the rest of it in check. I hope that made sense, right? You know, and I had a good example. I had a great example to watch. I mean, hell, my dad, like I come when, okay, I'm here, so let's deal with it. When people say men are shit, and then I hear people say black men are shit, I do have a natural inclination to like, hold on, motherfucker, not all black men are shit, right? Or not all men are shit. You know why? Because I have the luxury, I have the privilege of having been around some really good men, particularly black men, who were in front of thousands of people, had the opportunity to probably sleep with every other woman, if not every woman, underneath their leadership. I've seen it. I've been there with men who had those opportunities and they didn't take it. I've been around good men who do nothing but respect their wives and raise their children and leave something for their children and are great examples of leaders in their community. I've been around nothing but good men. And actually, let me keep going. Like, I look at my family, man. My family is blessed with men who respect their wives and do everything they can. They fight as hard as they can to be faithful. I can't say all of them have been faithful, but I can say that every single one of them has fought their best to be faithful and stay committed and all the, you know, working through the hard times. Like, that's my family. That's my family legacy above anything else, is the fact that we got a bunch of good men, all the way back to my great-great-grandfather, man. My great-great-grandfather, who started our entire family reunion, artist Harvey, right? We you know, by name, right? So it's like, George Harvey, actually, that's my great-great-grandfather. Artist is my great-grandfather, and murders. So anyway, we have a legacy of good men. And even though we have a legacy of good men, I guarantee you every single one of us have to regularly put our sexual inclinations in check, or else we can become shitty men. the exact type of man that they're talking about online when they say men ain't shit. That's my story. So hang on, let's see. I think I lost that last caller. 857-600-0518. Hang on, let me see. Did I lose that caller? Yeah, I lost that caller. If you want to weigh in. So I'm not saying that to brag and say that I'm actually saying that to say even the best of us are fully capable of doing some shitty stuff. And if we don't address it from that initial jump off point, man, that initial jump off point. And I'm not What am I not saying? I don't know if I can tell you guys what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that Ben Dixon ain't going to make some mistakes. I'm not going to tell you that Ben Dixon ain't never made no mistakes. You know, I've got a pretty good track record in all my life. And I'm not even talking about sexual harassment at this point, right? Let's be clear. We're not talking about sexual harassment or sexual assault. What I'm talking about very specifically is not being able to control yourself. See, we've been conditioned. Men have been raised and conditioned in a society that tells them to see something that they won't, get what they want, particularly sexually, particularly a woman. We've been raised and conditioned like that. I mean, we are literally like Pavlov's dog. I never will forget driving down the highway, you know what I mean, and looking up at a billboard in South Florida. And you know, me, I have been, you know, doing my own personal thing, my own personal journey. I'm trying to focus on X and I don't want Y. I'm focusing on one thing. I'm driving down the highway, minding my business, and I look up at this billboard and they were advertising a goddamn car. And when I tell you, they had like the sexiest woman in a blue dress, and she was getting out of the car, and it was almost like a goddamn star, a flash of light just flashed between her legs, between her legs, just whoo, like a glow of light. And I'm like, God damn, you know what I mean? So here I am trying to do the very best thing that I can do. And I'm driving through a city, I'm driving through a system that is designed to target me, particularly me as a man, exactly at the point where they can break me and get me to react with my sexual desires. I mean, and when I say I was in the zone, I'm focused on my job. I'm focused on my work. I'm focused on what I'm doing. I ain't got time to be chasing women because you know what I mean? Because it costs money and I don't want drama. I don't want I'm trying to do me. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to be a good man. I'm driving, minding my business, going home from work. And lo and behold, they put the goddess, I mean, they put her up on the billboard and and it was a wrap. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to holler at old girl over here because blah, blah, blah. Perfectly in tune. Now, if I had money, I probably would have gone and bought the Cadillac, but I ain't had no goddamn money. So what I do, I just acted on my sexual predilections. I'm sorry for all the gestures and the gesticulations, but I mean, it's like I'm using it to get out of my comfort zone and actually tell you about how even the best of us can become the shitty of us. And that's the part of the story of sexual harassment we never really get into. I even had it like I try to tell friends like back in the day. Shit, I'm lying. I try to tell friends now. Listen, I am married. I have kids. Nobody's more important to me than my kids and my wife. My relationship with my wife is very important. I've done a good job of being a faithful husband all this time. But don't think too highly of me because I am capable of being less than what you think. Right? Just straight up and down. Sorry. That's all I can say. Let's take this caller. Caller, am I losing? I mean, my calls are popping up all over the place. So let me try this one. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name? 917, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, my name is Jim. I've been listening to what you say, and I really feel what you got to say, but I think a lot of it has to do with empathy. You know what I mean? You know, like if you look at a beautiful woman and you catch them real quickly, and you know, your instincts get caught into it, I think that's, you know, that happens, you know what I mean? Yeah. But for things like harassment and stuff like that, you have to not actually see the other person as yourself and not see the way they feel that you feel. You understand what I'm saying?
Keep going, man. I definitely understand. That's the next part of the conversation. Go ahead. Keep on.
You know, yeah, and I think that, you know, you're telling me about a bunch of people who could have taken advantage of the situation, and I agree with you, because sometimes I feel like we all could have been in that spot. But, you know, sometimes when you get in that spot, you have to think about this is a fellow person, this is another human being.
Come on, man.
And how would you feel to be in the same boat? How would you feel to be treated in a certain way if you can't be treated, if you're not cognitive of what you're doing or anything like that? I mean, like, power is something I always felt is something that you should use to try to raise someone else up, not take someone else down. And I think like, unless you're a human being, your fellow human being, if you can't see other people like you see yourself, then that disconnection can be horrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, For sure. Hey man, thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate that. And I apologize for the audio cutting out there with the Skype call coming in. I think he said something very, very, very important there. So the first step is, I've described it so far. Everything that I've described so far is from the vantage point of you taking responsibility and being constantly working to be a better person. And this is actually, maybe this is just man to man tonight, right? Man to man, in the sense that, when we are in these positions of power, well, first of all, let me back up. Again, I have to reiterate something. Unless you've been in a position of power and authority and have influence over other people, I don't care if it's something, as modest as being a manager or something as large as being like a senator, right? Once you have that authority, that's when you really start seeing who you are, and you start seeing your predilections to do. And until you've been in that kind of position, you're almost, once you're in that kind of position, that's when you can find out the type of person you are. Right, to be redundant. And I think if you are a person, like the caller said, who does not have empathy before you get that kind of position and authority, you're not going to have empathy when you get in that, right? Get in that leadership position, you get that authority, you get that power, or you get money. Most of us aren't going to have a lot of money, right? So, but most of us, a lot of us will have the opportunity to sit in a position of power from which you have the ability to take advantage of people, or respect them as a human being and respect them as an equal, right? As an equal in terms of their humanity. Their humanity is equal to yours. They're not just an object there to serve you and to satisfy your desire, because that's really what it is. That's what you hear in this video with Weinstein. You hear that he does not see her as a human being. He sees her as someone who is there to service, one, his sexual desires, but then two, his reputation. Right. A big component of that video is that he is worried about his reputation. So clearly he's told somebody, told somebody that he's got a girl that he thinks is hot, and the hot girl, and, come over and check her out. And now he feels like he's going to be embarrassed because she won't come in the room. Right. So it's never about anything that's important to her except taking what's important to her and manipulating it and twisting it to try to force her into a compromising position. Here's the thing about it, man. Actually, no, I better say it, because if I take this call, I might forget, because I'm getting old. And anyway, I won't tell you other things that make my memory go away. But here's the thing about it. It's that, why would you, here's where I don't understand. Here's the component of sexual harassment, catcalling. Here's a component that I don't understand. Is that, actually, no, I just diagnosed it in my own head. It's a problem. It's a sickness, because how do you get sexual desire off of the pain of someone else, the pain that you're causing, right? You are literally causing this person, this woman, pain. And yet you're still able to be sexually aroused by that, and you still can take something from them. That part is exactly what the caller is talking about. In that way, you are a sociopath, because you have zero empathy for this human being, and you have no ability. You are more focused on your sexual desires than you are the pain that you're causing this individual. Like, for a moment, was it even possible for you to pause and think of how this individual feels? And the answer has to be no, because if you did, that would immediately reverse what the hell is going on in your mind. Like, the complete and utter lack of empathy, the ability to be concerned with someone else's emotions. That's exactly what you heard in that video. And that's exactly what happens time and time again. It becomes 100% about you servicing your desires at all cost. I don't even, and what I didn't say was, I don't even know how you could even want it anymore at that point. I don't, because really, I mean, God, have you, these people need fucking therapy. I mean, really, it's because I don't understand how you can get desire and pleasure without that desire and pleasure being reciprocated. I mean, hell, what? Okay, caller couldn't sit through that. Call 857-600-0518. Sorry, guys. Like, this is all I want to talk about tonight because the video really struck a nerve with me. The audio, rather, struck a nerve with me because it shows just how debased we can get, man. Even, you know, I don't know anything else about Weinstein other than he's a piece of crap, right? But I also want to highlight that it's not only the extremes of the Weinsteins. It's those of us who think we're good guys. You know, we have the capacity, we have the wherewithal, particularly if we particularly if we think we don't have the capacity. Yeah, wait till you have a position of authority and power. And what happens is a lot of dudes grow up without any position of power or money or influence. And then when they get older, like, they get it and they take advantage of it because they never had it when they were younger in the first place. I saw that shit happen too. It happens all over the place. It happens exactly like that. And now the question is like, how do we address it in our society? How do we address it, right? How do we raise individuals to respect the humanity of other people? That is the number one. That's it. I mean, it's just respecting the humanity of another person. And if you ever get that, respect the humanity. This is why, like, for me, it's easier for me to stay on the straight and narrow because a large component of my existence is about respecting the humanity of other people, or at least trying to, right? And learning to along the way of how I can do it better. But, you know, so many of us have been trained to just be out for ourselves. And that's part of our societal problem. We're 100% out here for ourselves and not concerned with anyone else but our own individual goals. And when you have that mindset, and that mindset translates into something more, into more areas than just business and more areas than just education, and it translates into other areas, then you don't have the empathy that's necessary to treat a person as an individual. 857-600-0518. Let me pause and address something people are asking about my LaCroix bottle. Is it a product placement? No, it's not a product placement. It is just the best kind of it sounded like I was going to do a commercial. Let me just say, no, it's not a product placement. They're talking about my posters and stuff. Are these product placements? No, these are not product placements. The only people who support the Benjamin Dixon Show are the patrons, right? So go to patreon.com/the BPD show and become a member, become a patron. Support us with $3 a month. And maybe I'll put a black thing around my soda next time, or my soda water. All right, let's walk around and take a look at some comments. Since someone to know, is there a video of it? There is no video of this. It's only audio, but the audio can be found on thenewyorker.com if you want to know anything else about what happened. And you can read the testimonials. The testimonials about how many people were harassed and sexually assaulted by Weinstein. It's so many women are coming out now. Here's one last component about this that I haven't really talked about much. People who are complicit, who say nothing about it. Now, before you feel like I'm getting on my high horse, you know me, I try to look holistically. I try to start with myself and look around. One, you know what? I don't care if you ever turned a blind eye before. Never turn a blind eye to it. Ever. Because that's how you empower it. That's how you enable it. That's how it goes from something that this guy thinks is innocent, but really it isn't. And that's how it escalates from something that he thinks is innocent to something that he'll finally admit was bad once he gets caught. It's because all of the people along the way who never said anything about it. And there's never really, it requires accomplices. It requires people to turn their eye for it to continue for such a long time. Hell, Hollywood was joking about it. They were making jokes at the Oscars about it. It's all a big fun and game and laugh, ha ha ha, until you find out the extent of it. And so had you been a decent person and addressed it from the beginning, You may not have stopped all instances of it, but at least you would be on record with this individual saying something about it. And the problem is, I get it, man. I'm not oblivious to the fact that a lot of times these are the people who literally write our goddamn checks. These are the people who have the ability to open doors for us or shut doors, to put us in the game or put us out of the game. And so people who are not immediately impacted by it sometimes just turn a blind eye. And in that way, we become accomplices to the same situation. Let's take some looks at, let's look at a couple of comments from Facebook. Diana says that no one stands up to someone that powerful. They just use word of mouth warnings. Daniel says that men controlled women as property for millennia. So I wonder how much of these problems are ingrained in the male psyche. That's actually a good question. That's actually a relatively reasonable question. You know, I don't think it's ingrained in our psyche as an excuse for us to continue it, or as an excuse to explain it away. And I know that's not what you're saying, Daniel, by any means. But it's almost it's a societal thing. It's something that we created. It's something that we created, and so it's therefore something that we can fix. And I don't think we'll ever fix it unless people are just 100% honest about it and transparent with themselves to start. I mean, I'm sorry, but start with yourself and don't look at this as that person, but look at this as, where have I, what side of this have I been on? Have I been anywhere in the realm of a harasser? Or, you know, in the call, one of the first callers said this. He's like, you know, every one of us, we look around and we might stare, and then we, you know, make a conscious decision. Are we going to treat them as a human being? Are we going to have empathy? And we're going to stop and realize that this is what we're doing. And if we don't do that most fundamental basic thing, man, then there's no stopping it. Let's take a look at a couple more questions. I'm going to jump over to YouTube again. Let's see. Okay, a lot of comments about product placements. You guys are more concerned about product placements, I know, but the conversation is going on both on YouTube and Facebook. There's a to put one more political piece in this, and then we'll wrap it up. You know, and I hope you guys understand. I hope you all understand the necessity of this conversation, because I don't think any of us should rest on our laurels of a good track record. Because if it's going on around us and we know about it, then we're complicit. And we're enabling it. If it's going on and we hear a story from a friend and we don't say anything about it, then we're complicit and we're enabling it. And then if we don't just take a look at ourselves introspectively and reflect on how at whatever time in our life, whatever time, you may be a totally different person now, but if you don't reflect back and say, okay, this was an instance, or these were multiple instances in which I was a harasser, a catcaller, then, you know, you're part of the problem. We're part of the problem. And then even if your track record is damn near good as mine, if you don't pause and think about how quickly you can devolve personally, you could devolve into being in that exact category of men ain't shit, then you're really setting yourself up. You're setting yourself up for the possibility of you falling and becoming that piece of shit. I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's a regular routine. It's a regular battle. It's a regular something that we have to address within ourselves every single day. And I'm hoping that every single one of you, my listeners, men in particular, that you will listen and hear me and just think about these things, man. Just think about these things, because we are in a system that is designed to communicate with us in that way every single minute of every single damn day. We are designed to jump and run. We are to see it. We are designed to turn our eyes. We are marketed to. We're marketed to in this exact fashion. I mean, we're literally living in a society that knows that knows that if you want to get a man's attention, this is exactly what you do. And because of that, we are conditioned, and we have to decondition ourselves and recondition ourselves into being able to have empathy for the other person and to see them as a human being and say, you know what, this might creep them the fuck out that I'm staring at them this long and this hard. And when all else fails, maybe you're not a good person of empathy. Maybe you don't have that. Those different synapses aren't firing. But at least hear me when I say this. Your ass will be embarrassed. You will be called out. You will be put on Front Street. Your life would really sincerely be ruined. So if you can't not muster up enough empathy to not do this type of thing, big and small, right? And when I say big and small, I'm speaking of, your catcalling all the way to what we think and everybody can condemn. See, we can condemn Harvey Weinstein, but we're not good at condemning stuff that we just disregard that happens all day, every day, and we dismiss it as just being normal. But if you don't handle it and control yourself, fellas, there's a lot of embarrassment out there. And hopefully you don't have to be embarrassed. You can just have some empathy. All right, folks, that's all I have for you tonight. There's a lot more that we could talk about on this situation. But I would rather, I want to include voices of women on this. But for tonight, it's more of just the guys, talking with the guys about this and how you get it. You know what it is. So when the next time we have this conversation, I want to speak, and I'll probably bring on some women specifically to discuss this in their own way. And I will be, I will answer whatever questions, or I'll serve as a proxy for all men in that kind of scenario, and just let them say what they want to say about it. But I had to say my piece because of how much I haven't said about it in the past, quite frankly. I've got a backlog. I've got 2 years of doing this that I haven't addressed this significantly in the past. And so I just had to say my piece. So I hope you understand. I hope you got something from it. And we will be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern time instead of 9 o'clock. We're going live at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And at 9 o'clock, Anoa Changa, my sister, she's going to be taking over the channel to do her show. And so until 8 o'clock on tomorrow, I will see you later.
Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.